Good morning, 0900 students. Today we're going to talk about 5.3, and understanding 5.3 is important to understanding 5.4 and 5.5. So these techniques have to be mastered first, 5.3, before you go to 5.4. So I prepared 5 examples to demonstrate pretty much all the types of problems found in this. And I've drawn a little picture here of a jar full of colored marbles and a scooper, and I'm going to use this example to illustrate all 5 of these examples so that you can have a real world example from these problems here. So in this case, first one, 20% of 155 is what? So if you had a scooper that could take out 20% of the marbles, and there was 155 marbles in here, how many would you take out? This is what this question is asking. So the way you would set this up is you're going to translate this. The word of is going to mean times. The word equals is going to mean, or the word is means equals. Then you put these, just basically bring it down, and there's going to be a variable in one of these 3 spots. There's 3 spots. There's this, and this will be in. So 20%, which we're going to convert to a decimal. This is key here too. Anytime you have a percentage, you want to convert to a decimal. So this is going to be 0.2 times 155. Now I have all the answers here in front of me, so I'm going to skip me working it out on the side. You can hit the buttons on the calculator. But this is an example of one where you would multiply. Most of these you have to divide. 0.2 times 155 works out to be 31. So 31 would equal n. You just multiply it here. This times that equals n, so that's 31. 0.2 times 155. Okay, so think about it. It's important to think about it. A lot of people don't do this, and then they have trouble. 20% of 155. If there's 155 marbles in here, and you take out just 20% of them, you take out 31 marbles. So that's what this does for you. Let me fade this off. My marbles will stay here. And here's the next one. 15 is 20% of what? So to do this problem, 15 is 20% of how many marbles? So this one, basically, if you scoop out 20% of the marbles and you have 15 in your scooper this time, how many would 20% be? In other words, how many are in the total number of marbles in the thing if you take out 15? So still, no matter how you slice it, you're just going to translate. 15 is means equals, 20% becomes 0.2 again, of is times, and what, or when it says what number or whatever, that would be n. In this example, you don't multiply, but you divide. And you always divide by this number that's next to the variable, which is the coefficient. I've been talking about that all quarter. So you would divide both sides by 0.2, and you would take your calculator and divide this from top to bottom, 15 divided by 0.2, and that comes out to be 75 marbles. So in other words, if you were to take out 15 marbles from a total number that you don't know, and that's 20% of the total would be 75 marbles. Hope you're getting this. I think after 5 examples, you'll start to get this. And this one, this is the third type of problem. What percent of 35 is 22.4? Even though you can't take out 0.4 of a marble, it's just an example. What percent, that would be n, times 35 is equals 22.4. This is another one that sets up to where you're going to have to divide. But in this one, watch what happens here. We divide by 35. That's still the one next to the variable, the coefficient. And we would divide this on a calculator from top to bottom. And when you do, you will get 0.6. Okay, do over. Let's erase that. 0.64. But it asks you what percent. So this is a decimal here. We need to change this to a percent by moving it back 2 places to the right. So this becomes 64%. 64%. So if you scoop out 22.4 marbles out of 35, that's 64% of the marbles. Moving along. Isn't this fun? 6 is what percent of 800? Now, this is a very small percentage. Think about it. If there's 800 marbles in this thing and you scoop out only 6 of them, that's a very small percent. So this would be 6 equals what percent would be n times is of 800. And again, the theme is we're going to divide by the number that's next to the variable. So we're going to divide by 800. 6, top to bottom now, 6 divided by 800 on a calculator will give you a decimal of 0.0075. And then to change it to a percent, because it's asking you what percent, you would move it 2 places back, and that would become 0.75%. All these examples, very similar to each other. The last one of my favorites, is kind of an application, and it's something that you're very familiar with, the test grades. So if you get 44 out of 55 problems correct, at the top of your paper you might see something that looks like 44 out of 55. And you're like, what percent is that? Well, let me show you how this works. When you have something like this, 44 out of 55, you're just going to divide this top to bottom. 44 divided by 55. If you do that, you're going to get 0.8. But it asks you what percent that is. And that would become, of course, if you move this back 2 places, 80%. So now you never have to ask somebody, well, what percent is that again? Because if you know the number that you have correct out of the total number, that's, of course, what a percentage is. It's the part over the whole thing. It's the piece out of the total amount. 44 marbles scooped out of 55 marbles. That's 80%. So hopefully all these examples help you master this concept. And I want to just go back and look at the original one that we did here, which was this one. This is different than the other 4 because, and you have to recognize it when it happens, if it looks like 20% or some percent of a number, and it's side by side like that with of in between, and then it says is what, and it looks like this after you set it up, of course you're going to be setting all these up, that's a multiplying problem. So there's 3 basic types of these. There's 2 where you have to divide and 1 where you have to multiply. Go back through, after you've watched this a couple times, try all these examples, and I really think you'll get it. Listen to it all again. Talk to you soon.